Hello and welcome back to another installment of the African Bullion Exchange channel, and today we are going to be looking into one of the biggest fraudsters. Well, one of the biggest fraud cases to come out of Zimbabwe. Well, this story actually starts in the UK, and it is the story of the quite dramatic owner of Oi, which is a platform which was created by Sithule Tshuma, and she just appeared in court in the UK in very dramatic fashion as she pitched up in a coffin enclosure because she was worried that a lot of Zimbabweans in the UK are actually trying to kill her. Quite dramatic. This all took place in Manchester, so I'm just going to give you a bit of background into the story if you don't know anything about this story. I think a lot of people from Bulawayo actually know about this Oi organization because its tentacles are very far-reaching. I had a lot of friends, particularly female friends, who always joined these groups where they'll put money together, and apparently they were able to buy stands as a group of women, and guess what? It all turned out to be a scam. I actually told this friend of mine that, listen, this is a scam, but she was in denial. I guess this woman was really good. She had a really good story. But anyway, let's dive into it and let's dissect this story. So, it says here, the business owner of Oi, which is based in the UK, but it's got its business on the ground in Zimbabwe. So, Miss Tshuma, in very dramatic fashion, before she appeared in court in Manchester, she demanded that she cannot access the court except whilst housed in a coffin through which only the judge can see her body. So this is very dramatic, you know, and apparently she stole somewhere in the region of 25 million pounds. Boy, oh boy. So the court had to build a whole coffin structure so that she can hide her face from the complainants and the rest of the people inside the court. So, just to give you a bit of background, Ms. Tshuma is accused of stealing or making up to 25 million pounds from selling land that does not belong to her. So, let's dive into this, and you have to bear in consideration that this is not the first scam which has come out of the UK amongst Zimbabweans. There's quite a few actually. You know, you've got the COS sponsorship scams. There's a lot of organized fraudulent schemes which are being run by Zimbabweans against Zimbabweans. So if you're watching this or listening to this, you really need to pay attention. And if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, you know. So just be careful. But let's get into this case. So what this woman used to do, and her name is Sithule Tshuma, who is a UK trained staff nurse, and she is the founder of Oi Zindlovukazi, which is a UK-based company that purports to offer lucrative land development opportunities as empowerment for women in Zimbabwe. This fraudulent scheme, aided by a network of individuals, including Karen Kumalo and many other people, but I'm not going to go into the names because a lot of us are not going to know who these people are in the first place. But a lot of these people were actually nurses, and these were the people who were on the ground facilitating the scheme. So this lady, Sithule Tshuma, became very synonymous in the UK, and she participated in quite a lot of deceptive behavior and a lot of bullying, which is what a lot of her victims are purporting to have happened. And her modus operandi involved advertising prime land parcels in Zimbabwe to unsuspecting investors, promising substantial returns on their investments. To the untrained eye, these land development projects looked like a golden opportunity, luring individuals, particularly women in the diaspora, seeking to build their lavish homes or profitable investments, advertised as brimming with potential. And I've lived in the UK for quite some time, back and forth between the UK, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. You know, and one thing I can tell you is that people are very people are very naive. You know, you go to work as a nurse, as a care worker, whatever it is that you do in the UK, and you work really hard. Instead of saving that money in the bank and letting it build up, and then going to Zimbabwe to go and build your house or whatever it is that you want to do, why on earth would you decide to give the money to someone else to save it on your behalf? It's mind-boggling. Just do it yourself. But anyway, let's get back to the story. Beneath the veneer of promise and lies was a complex web of fraudulent activities which have devastated the lives of many unsuspecting women in the UK. So what makes this fraudulent land scam particularly troubling is the multifaceted approach employed by its orchestrators. So she used a lot of deceptive marketing tactics, including the use of falsified land development documents, deception, fake testimonials, and misleading promotional materials on Facebook. So all of these things were systematically employed to lure unsuspecting investors. These tactics, coupled with the promise of enormous financial returns by Sithule, and she used a lot of buzzwords or buzz phrases like the land is yours, clean title deeds, and they proved to be quite highly effective. You know, you just stop to think to yourself, and I remember at one point I even had my mom tell me about this fantastic woman who was doing some amazing things, and her name was Sithule Tshuma, and she was from this organization called Koi. And I said to her, listen mom, it's a scam. Stop right there. This was maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And I said, listen mom, this is a scam. And what I noticed about this Sithule lady, if you've lived in the UK, you understand that a lot of Zimbabwean people are actually quite isolated. It's a lonely country for black people in general. So she took advantage of that. So you found that there's a lot of Zimbabweans genuinely who are just lonely, don't have people to talk to, and they found that this Koi organization gave them a bit of a purpose, a bit of community, and a reason to interact with fellow Zimbabweans. And she took plain advantage of that, which is quite sad, you know. Furthermore, there were reports of bullying, and she was using those kind of tactics to intimidate and silence those who became suspicious or vocal about their concerns. There's a close friend of the family that I have, and I think she lost somewhere in the region of about £28,000. And it's not like she lost £28,000 over the course of maybe a year or 2 years. She handed over £28,000 in one payment. She transferred it to her account. And the question I asked her is, why would you transfer 28,000? Why not just pay £500, get on a flight, go to Zimbabwe, and go and buy the land that you want to buy? Why does this woman have to be involved? It just doesn't make any sense, guys. It doesn't make any sense. You work so hard. Stop giving people your money. God, this is so frustrating. So apparently there was a lot of threats, harassment, and even verbal aggression and threats of violence that were being employed to maintain a shroud of secrecy around the operation. In order to give her scheme a lot more credibility, she was able to pull in a bunch of lawyers who gave her that little bit of oomph, you know, that credibility on the ground to sort of say, listen, these deals are above board and everything is in order, to make the victims feel a lot more comfortable, which is quite sickening, really. And lawyers who really should serve as gatekeepers of legality have been implicated in facilitating the fraudulent transactions, thereby further undermining the trust and confidence individuals place in the legal system, if any at all. Come on, guys, this is Zimbabwe. Even if a lawyer comes to you and says, trust me, you can't trust them. You have to comb through all of the details with the fine-tooth comb. You have to. This is Zimbabwe. Wake up. Stay woke. But anyway, she stole about 25 million. And I think this scheme started from 2020 and it just really got found out in 2024. So quite shocking information, but the case is underway. is undergoing. It's happening in Manchester, and the next hearing, I believe, is on the 24th of April. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Nice one.